The red sun of Andros Prime hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over a broken battlefield. Smoke rose from shattered buildings. Craters pocked the once green plains. The Terran defense outpost, built to guard the planet's vital mines, now stood like a wounded animal, its walls cracked, its guns silent. Colonel Lyra Kess stood on the command tower's edge, helmet under one arm. Her face was grim. Below her, the last remaining soldiers of Earth's defense forces prepared for what would likely be their final fight. They were tired, bruised, and outnumbered. Supplies were nearly gone. Ammunition was running dry. Medics were treating wounds. With scraps and hope, and above them in the dark sky, the Vorton ships floated like shadows. The Vorton swarm was unlike any enemy humanity had ever faced. They weren't just conquerors. They were devourers, hive-minded insect-like creatures that moved with one purpose: on spread and consume. When they attacked, they didn't stop. They didn't talk. They didn't negotiate. They simply came. And now they were here. Kess turned as her second-in-command, Lieutenant Aron Malik, walked up the stairs to her side. His uniform was scorched, and a long cut ran down his arm, but he still stood tall. "They've broken through the outer wall, Colonel," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Sector 7 is gone. We've got maybe 50 soldiers left, including medics and techs." Lyra didn't flinch. "And the orbital guns?" "Offline. Power grids unstable. We lost the last satellite link an hour ago." Lyra stared at the horizon. Out there, among the smoke and rubble, the Vorton would be moving in, crawling over everything in their path. Their scouts were small, fast, and vicious. But it was the larger ones, 12-foot monsters with blade-like arms, that truly terrified the soldiers. They called those ones Reapers. "We don't have much time," Lyra said. She looked at the sky. No help was coming. Not from the Alliance, not from Earth. The fleet had retreated days ago, pushed back by overwhelming enemy numbers. Andros Prime had been left behind, written off as a loss. Lyra knew the message she had to send. She walked into the control room and stepped up to the last working transmitter. The holographic screen flickered as she input the emergency code. "Attention Earth Command," she said clearly. "This is Colonel Lyra Kess, Terran Defense Force. We are under full siege. Enemy has breached all sectors. We cannot hold much longer. Civilians have been evacuated, but our soldiers remain, requesting immediate evacuation or support. Repeat, requesting support. We are making our final stand." She paused for a second, then added more quietly, "If no help is possible, tell Earth we fought to the last." The message was sent. A blue light blinked, then faded. Whether it reached anyone, she didn't know. Down below, soldiers gathered in a half-destroyed courtyard. Some carried rifles with empty clips. Others had switched to knives and steel batons. A few had nothing but their fists. They didn't talk much. What could they say? They had seen too much. Friends gone, battles lost, nights filled with screams and smoke. But even in the silence, there was something else. A spark. A stubborn spark that refused to go out. They were human. And humans didn't quit. Not until their hearts stopped beating. Private Rico Santiago, barely 19, adjusted the strap of his dented helmet. "So this is it?" he muttered to the medic beside him. The medic, a woman named Dana with cybernetic fingers, gave him a tired smile. "Not yet. We're still breathing." Suddenly alarms flared. The sky darkened and a deep rumble echoed over the battlefield. Not from the Vorton ships, but from something else. The command tower's radar blinked back to life. Just for a moment, Lieutenant Malik frowned at the screen. "Colonel, I'm picking up something. Dozens of objects entering atmosphere. High velocity, no ID." Lyra leaned over his shoulder. "Enemy?" "Not Vorton. Too small. And they're descending fast." She narrowed her eyes. "Impact zones?" "Right here." Moments later, the sky lit up. From the heavens, flaming. Streaks cut through the clouds, dozens of them like comets crashing down. The Vorton looked up, sensing something new, something unknown. Their alien minds hesitated. Then the pods hit. Explosions shook the ground. Smoke and dust flew into the air. The soldiers on the ground dove for cover. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then something rose from the smoke. They were tall, armored, and deadly. Black exosuits gleamed under the red sun. Their helmets had no faceplates, only mirrored steel. They moved like machines but fought like demons. One raised a massive cannon and fired. The blast tore through a reaper, cutting it in half. Another soldier leapt 10 meters into the air, slamming down with a shockwave that sent Vortan flying. The Earth soldiers stared in disbelief. "They're human," whispered Santiago. Dana nodded, eyes wide. "Drop core." Lyra watched from above, breath caught in her throat. She had heard the stories. The drop core were a legend. Elite soldiers trained for direct atmospheric insertion. They didn't arrive by ship. They fell from orbit like weapons, and when they landed, things died. The impossible had happened, help had come, and it came from the sky. Far from the battlefields of Andros Prime, deep under the frozen wastelands of Earth's northern pole, a silent facility came alive. Alarms blared softly. Steel walls lit up with flashing red lines. Heavy doors, sealed for years, slid open with loud hisses. A computer voice echoed through the chambers. Black Phoenix protocol activated. Authorization. Earth command. Clearance. Omega level. Inside the underground base, figures moved through the darkness. Engineers, commanders, and medics. This was Erebus Station, the hidden birthplace of the most dangerous warriors Earth had ever created. The drop corps. They weren't ordinary soldiers. They were human, yes, but they were faster, stronger, and smarter than anyone else on the battlefield. Each one was trained from youth, enhanced with tech and science, and built for only one purpose: win the unwinnable war. Awakening the past in a cold chamber at the heart of Erebus, an armored capsule opened with a hiss. Steam escaped. Inside, a tall man slowly opened his eyes. Captain Elias Vorn stepped out, naked to the waist, muscles covered in faded scars. His body showed the signs of battles long past, but his eyes were sharp, cold, ready. A female officer stood waiting. She handed him a folded black uniform and spoke clearly. "Captain Vorn, you've been reactivated." Vorn dressed quickly, saying nothing. He had expected this moment for years. The war was never truly over. "What's the situation?" he finally asked. The officer led him through a hallway of metal and glass. Screens on the walls showed live feeds of Andros Prime, burning skies, Vortan swarms, human soldiers making their final stand. "The colony's about to fall," she explained. "We've lost 2 fleets, no air support. All we've got left is you." Vorn stopped walking. He looked at the screen where Colonel Lyra Kess stood, in a half-broken command post, sending her final message. "She called for a miracle," the officer said. "We're sending one. The Corps returns in the drop hangar, dozens of soldiers prepared. They wore full-body exosuits, jet black, reinforced with armor that could stop plasma. Their helmets were blank-faced, hiding all emotion. Each soldier moved with discipline, their weapons heavy and precise. Vorn stood before them. He raised his voice. It echoed across the chamber. "We were built for this," he said. "The world forgot us. But we didn't forget the fight. Those people on Andros Prime, they held the line when everyone else ran. They didn't surrender, so we won't either." He looked at them, each one deadly, each one silent. "We're not just going to save that colony," Vorn growled. "We're going to remind the galaxy who we are." He turned toward the launch pods. "We're the drop corps." The soldiers repeated in unison, loud and clear. "We fall. They break. Back to the fire." The sky above Andros Prime burned as Vortan creatures poured over the land. At the center of the chaos, Colonel Kess watched the newcomers fight. The drop. Corps had only landed an hour ago, but the battlefield had changed completely. Vorn's team moved like a storm. Their weapons tore through Vortan flesh. Their movements were fast, controlled, and brutal. Each one seemed to know exactly what the others were doing. One drop soldier stood his ground against 3 Reapers, using a heavy cannon to blast them apart. Another jumped from rooftop to rooftop, dropping charges behind enemy lines. The Vortan had never fought humans like these. In the command tower, Malik stared at the radar. "Colonel, enemy numbers dropping fast. They're pulling back." Kess couldn't believe it. "They're retreating?" For now. She stepped outside and watched as Vorn approached the tower. He removed his helmet, revealing a square jaw and steel-gray eyes. Dirt covered his face, but his voice was calm. "Colonel Kess, Captain Vorn, Drop Corps." She nodded, trying to hide her surprise. "I thought your program was shut down." It was. Then someone lit the signal. They shook hands, warriors recognizing each other. "We've got limited time," Vorn said. "The Vorten are building something under the surface, big, hive-like. If they finish it, this planet becomes a breeding ground." Kess frowned. "How do you know that?" "We've seen it before. A hidden threat that night. A team of Droppy Corps scouts returned from a mission. They had found a tunnel, deep and wide, leading far under the surface of the colony. Inside were signs of a growing hive structure, bioorganic walls, massive egg chambers, and worse, an energy signature, matching Vortan Queen evolution patterns. "They're building a nexus hive," Vorn told the command staff. "If the Queen matures, the swarm spreads like wildfire." Kess looked at the map. "We don't have enough firepower to destroy something that deep." "You don't," Vorn said. "We do." His voice was steady, cold. "We drop a nano nuke. We hit the core, 1 shot. But we need a team to go in deep, on foot." Kess stared at him. "That's suicide." "I know," Vorn replied. "But we don't run." Preparing the final strike. The next morning, under the rising twin moons of Andros Prime, the chosen team prepared for descent into the hive tunnels. Vorn led them. Kess tried to stop him. "You're the only one like you. Earth still needs you." Vorn just smiled. "Earth needs soldiers who finish what they start." He turned away, stepping into the tunnel entrance with his team. 12 drop soldiers followed him, all silent, all ready. Kess watched them go. Deep down, she knew. If they failed, the planet was lost. But if they succeeded, the war might just turn. The ground shook as the drop corps moved deeper into the tunnel. 12 soldiers. 1 mission. No turning back. Captain Elias Vorn led the way, his black armor glowing faintly in the dark. The walls of the tunnel were alive, pulsing with greenish, light, organic, wet breathing. The deeper they went, the hotter it got. The air smelled like acid and ash. Strange sounds echoed all around them. Clicks, whispers, hisses. The Vortan hive was awake. "This is no cave," whispered Private Wren, the youngest of the team. "This place is alive." Vorn didn't look. "Firstum, stay focused. We're close." Behind him, his team checked weapons. Their boots crunched over Vortan shells and slime-covered rocks. Every second, they moved further into enemy territory. Their goal: plant a nano-nuke at the hive's heart and destroy the Queen before she could fully awaken. Above ground, Colonel Lyra Kess watched from the command tower, tracking the squad's vitals on a screen. Each dot represented a soldier. And each dot was deep underground, cut off from satellite signal. Malik stood beside her. "I don't like this if they get trapped down there." Kess didn't answer. She knew. There would be no rescue, no second team. This was all or nothing. A war zone below the Earth an hour passed. The tunnel opened into a wide underground chamber. It was massive, bigger than a stadium. Dozens of Vorten creatures crawled across the walls and ceiling. The hive pulsed like a living organ. In the center stood a glowing cocoon 15 meters high. Inside, a shape twisted, part insect, part nightmare. The Queen was growing fast. Vorn raised a hand. His team froze. "Target confirmed," he said. "We plant the device at the base of the cocoon." Sergeant Kale, the team's explosives expert, stepped forward with the nuke. It was small, no bigger than a backpack, but powerful enough to vaporize the entire chamber. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the hive. Thousands of red eyes opened in the darkness. "They see us," whispered Wren. Vorn's voice was calm. "Form a circle. Defend the tech. Buy him time." The battle begins. The hive erupted into chaos. Vortan warriors swarmed from all sides, small ones crawling fast like spiders, and larger ones crashing down with armored limbs. The drop corps didn't flinch. Pulse rifles lit up the chamber, cutting through waves of enemies. Vorn moved like a shadow, dodging and striking with perfect aim. His plasma blade sliced clean through a reaper's thick hide. Sergeant Kale knelt by the cocoon, hands steady as he programmed the nuke's timer. 2 minutes, he shouted. "Hold them," Vorn called out. Wren fired his weapon until it overheated. He switched to a blade, slashing through a charging drone. His hands shook, but he didn't fall back. "Left side," shouted another soldier as a Vortan beast crashed into their line. 3 drop soldiers tackled it together, bringing it down. In a spray of acid blood, the chamber was turning into a storm of fire and death. But they held. They always held. A costly escape. "Charge is set," Kale yelled. Vorn opened his comm. "Command, the package is planted. We're heading out. 5-minute countdown starts now." On the surface, Kess heard the message. "Get them out," she ordered. In the hive, Vorn signaled for retreat. "Move." The team began to fall back, but the Vortan didn't stop. The hive knew it was dying, and it wanted to take its killers with it. One by one, the drop soldiers fought their way back toward the tunnel. Then a reaper lunged from the ceiling and grabbed Wren, slamming him to the ground. Vorn turned. "Wren!" the young soldier coughed blood. "Go!" But Vorn wasn't leaving anyone behind. He charged, leaping onto the reaper's back. His blade tore into its neck. The creature screamed, then fell. Vorn pulled Wren to his feet. "You stay awake. You stay with me." Together, they ran. Hellfire rain. The surviving team burst out of the tunnel just as the hive began to collapse behind them. Dust and heat chased them up through the narrow passage. A deep rumble shook the ground. Then the earth cracked open, and the sky turned white. From the surface, Kess and Malik watched in silence as the explosion ripped through the valley. A massive pillar of fire shot into the air. The hive was gone. The queen was gone. The Vortan army staggered. The hive mind had been shattered. Survivors. Rise hours later, the battlefield was quiet. Smoke drifted across the ruins. The remaining Vortan forces began to retreat, leaderless and confused. Drop Corps medics found the survivors of the tunnel mission. Only 6 remained. Vorn was among them. Bloody, bruised, but alive. Wren had survived too, thanks to Vorn. He lay, on a stretcher, still in shock but smiling weakly. "You came back," he whispered. "I always do," Vorn said, then stood to face the horizon. Colonel Kess met him near the crater where the hive once stood. "You just saved this planet," she said. Vorn nodded. "One hive down. But the war's not over." Kess looked up at the sky. "It is here. For now." Behind them, the people of Andros Prime, soldiers, medics, engineers, stood and watched as the Drop Corps walked through the ruins. Some saluted. Others clapped or cried. For the first time in weeks, there was hope. The dust was still settling over Andros Prime when the Vortan swarmed again, but this time with something different. Captain Elias Vorn stood at the edge of the shattered battlefield watching the horizon. His armor was scratched and scorched. His eyes, hard and focused, scanned the darkening sky. The hive's destruction had only slowed the enemy, not stopped it. "Colonel Kess," Vorn said into his comm, "they're coming back in force." Kess's voice crackled over the radio. "I know. We just lost 2 patrols near the East Ridge. They're getting desperate." Vorn's jaw tightened. "They'll try to take the underground tunnels next." Kess answered, "If they do, Andros Prime falls." A new threat emerges. Deep in a hidden Vortan command bunker, a monstrous creature stirred. The remains of the Hive Queen's offspring, half-formed but still dangerous, lay in gestation. The Vortan hive mind pulsed faintly, trying to heal and regroup. From the darkness, a new voice whispered, "Cold, commanding alien. The queen may be dead, but the hive lives. Prepare the next wave. Crush these humans." Humanity fights back on the surface. Vorn met with Kess and Lieutenant Malik in the command center. The tension was thick. "We can't hold forever," Kess said. "We're outnumbered and running, low on supplies." "We need to take the fight to them," Vorn replied. "Find their command center. Destroy their leadership." Malik nodded. "The underground tunnels will lead us there." Vorn turned. "Then that's where we go." The mission, the Drop Corps prepared once more for a dangerous mission. This time, it was not just to destroy but to kill the hive's new leader. Vorn's team was smaller, 8 soldiers, all hand-picked for speed and skill. "Listen up," Vorn said. "We hit their command center. No second chances, this fight ends here." The team nodded. They loaded into stealth pods, smaller than the ones before, designed for silent insertion. Into the depths, the pods dropped through the atmosphere like shadows, landing near the tunnel's hidden entrances. Inside, the air was colder now. The walls dripped with a strange black liquid. The soldiers moved carefully, weapons ready. "Stay alert," Vorn warned. "The hive is smarter now." As they, advanced alien sounds echoed, whispers in a language no human could understand. Vortan sentries moved like ghosts, disappearing into shadows. Suddenly the team hit a wall, a living barrier made of thick, sinewy material. Vorn scanned it. "This is their nerve center," he said. "The hive's brain." The battle for the hive. Without warning, the barrier pulsed and ripped open. From the darkness came creatures, half Vortan, half something worse. Their limbs were long and sharp, eyes glowing with hate. The Drop Corps opened fire. Bullets ripped through flesh and bone, but the creatures kept coming. Vorn charged forward with his plasma blade, cutting a path through the enemy. Around him, his soldiers fought with deadly precision. One by one, the creatures fell, but more kept coming. The hive was desperate, and it knew this fight meant survival or extinction. The hive commander. At the heart of the command center, a giant creature waited. Taller than any Vortan before, covered in armor that shimmered like liquid metal. Its eyes burned with intelligence and fury. Vorn stepped forward. "You will die here," the creature hissed in perfect English, its voice cold and cruel. "We're not here to talk," Vorn said. "We're here to end this." The battle was brutal. The hive commander moved fast, striking with powerful claws and psychic blasts. Vorn's armor cracked under the force of one blow, but he stood firm. His soldiers fought beside him, buying time. Finally, Vorn found an opening. He plunged his plasma blade deep into the creature's chest. The hive commander screamed, a sound of rage and pain, then collapsed. Victory and warning. The command center began to shake. "The hive is dying," Malik reported, "but more could come." Vorn looked at the destroyed chamber. "This war isn't over, not yet." They escaped as the tunnels began to collapse behind them. Aftermath. Back on the surface, Kess met the surviving soldiers. "You've won this battle," she said, "but the galaxy is watching. Humanity must be ready." Vorn looked to the sky, knowing more wars would come. "We will be." Darkness covered the deep tunnels beneath Andros Prime like a thick living blanket. The walls pulsed softly, glowing with an eerie green light that reflected off the wet, slimy surfaces. Captain Elias Vorn led his small team deeper into the heart of the hive's last stronghold. The air was heavy and hot, filled with the strange smells of decay and life at the same time. Behind them, the surface battle continued, but here, far below, silence ruled. "This is it," Vorn said quietly. "The Queen's chamber lies ahead. We end this here." The soldiers nodded, their faces hidden behind the black helmets of the Drop Corps. No one spoke. Every step forward was weighed with the knowledge that this might be their last mission. The lair of the Queen. The tunnel opened into a massive cavern. It was larger than any cathedral on Earth, with walls covered in thick veins that pulsed with energy. At the center, the hive queen hung suspended in a giant cocoon made of strange silk and flesh. Her body was enormous, more than twice the size of the creatures they had fought before, and half-formed, still growing. Her many eyes opened slowly, reflecting the faint light. The queen's voice filled the chamber, a low, haunting sound that vibrated in the soldiers' minds. "You humans think you can kill me?" she hissed. "You are nothing but insects." Vorn raised his plasma rifle. "We don't think, we know." The battle begins. Suddenly, the queen's cocoon burst open. From within, she rose, towering and terrible. Her limbs were long and sharp, claws dripping with poison. Her wings unfurled, blotting out the cavern's glow. Her voice was a scream of rage and power. The drop core fired as she advanced. Bullets struck her armored skin but barely slowed her. Vorn charged forward, plasma blade glowing bright. The battle was brutal. The queen lashed out with powerful claws, striking soldiers and sending them crashing into the walls. Her poison stung and burned, but the soldiers fought on. Private Wren, still weak but determined, dodged a swipe and fired a grenade into the queen's exposed side. The explosion rocked the cavern. Vorn used the moment to slash at her leg, cutting. Deep sacrifice and resolve. One soldier, Sergeant Kale, was grabbed by the queen and lifted high. His armor cracked under the pressure. With a final shout, he detonated a grenade, taking part of the queen's wing with him. The others fought harder. "Keep her off balance," Vorn shouted. "We have to finish this." They moved as one, attacking, retreating, striking again. The queen's strength was great, but their will was stronger. The final strike, Vorn saw his chance. The queen staggered, bleeding from her wounds. With a cry, he plunged his plasma blade into her chest. The energy blade cut through flesh and bone. The queen screamed, an unholy sound that shook the cavern. Her body began to collapse, twisting and writhing. The hive around them started to fall apart, walls breaking and tunnels shaking. "Retreat!" Vorn yelled. The soldiers ran, dodging falling debris and collapsing tunnels. Escape and aftermath. They burst into the fresh air just as the entire hive began to implode behind them. Fire and smoke filled the sky. Below, the Vortan forces were in chaos. Without their queen, their command and control collapsed. Colonel Kess met Vorn and his team as they returned. "You did it," she said simply. Vorn shook his head. "We destroyed the queen, but there will always be others. We have to be ready." Kess nodded. "And we will be." The survivors looked out over the scarred landscape. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The sky over Andros Prime was still thick with smoke and ash. The fires from the destroyed hive burned bright, lighting up the night like a funeral pyre. But beneath the dark clouds, something new was rising. Captain Elias Vorn stood on the ruined battlefield, looking out at the horizon. His armor was scratched and battered, but his eyes were clear and sharp. Around him, the surviving soldiers of the drop corps stood ready. They had faced impossible odds. They had fallen from the sky like thunder and changed the course of the war, but the fight was far from over. A new beginning. Colonel Lyra Kess approached, her face tired but filled with hope. "We've sent word to Earth," she said. "The drop corps have returned, and the galaxy is watching." Vorn nodded. "The Vorten will think twice before attacking again. We showed them humanity's true strength." Kess smiled slightly. "You and your soldiers became a symbol, a warning. We call it the Iron Rain." The soldiers looked up at the sky, where faint stars peeked through the smoke. "This is just the beginning," Vorn said. "We fight to protect our home, to protect our future." The call to arms back on Earth. Leaders gathered in a great hall. Screens showed the footage from Andros Prime, the drop pods falling like meteors, the soldiers fighting with fierce skill, the destruction of the Hive Queen. The message was clear. Humanity would no longer hide behind walls or retreat into space. They would fight. Generals spoke with determination, scientists pushed for new weapons, and every soldier in the Terran Alliance prepared for the next wave. The Drop Corps Gros Erebus station buzzed with activity. New recruits trained harder than ever before, inspired by the legends of Vorn and his team. Vorn himself was offered command of the entire drop corps. But he shook his head. "I'm a soldier," he said simply. "Let others plan. I'll keep fighting." Still, he trained the new soldiers, passing on what he had learned in the fires of war. A galaxy. Watching beyond Earth's reach, other civilizations watched the conflict. Some feared the growing power of humanity. Others admired their courage. A message arrived at the Terran fleet from an alien ambassador. "Your iron rain has changed the balance. The galaxy is no longer the same." Vorn heard the news with quiet. Pride out to future forged in battle back on Andros Prime. The survivors rebuilt. The mines reopened. The colonies grew stronger. Vorn walked through the rebuilding town, children staring wide-eyed as he passed. One young girl stepped forward, holding a small model of a drop pod. "Are you a hero?" she asked. Vorn smiled. "No, just a soldier." "But you saved us," she said. "That's what soldiers do," he replied. The promise of iron rain as. The stars shone brighter over Andros Prime. Vorn stood with his team, ready for whatever came. "Next, humanity may fall," he said quietly. "But it never stays down." The iron rain had fallen, and the galaxy would remember.